Welcome back to State of Texas In Depth. This week we learned who will likely be the man in charge of running the day-to-day operations at the University of Texas system. Admiral William McRaven is a UT alum who became a Navy SEAL and led the operation to kill Osama bin Laden. Regents must wait until the middle of August to make it official. We got an idea of what kind of leader McRaven was when he spoke at the UT Austin commencement in May.
Know that life is not fair and that you will fail often. But if you take some risks, step up when the times are the toughest, face down the bullies, lift up the downtrodden, and never, ever give up. If you do these things, the next generation and the generations that follow will live in a world far better than the one we have today. And what started here will indeed have changed the world for the better.
Being a university system chancellor in Texas comes with some unique challenges. This week, our Robert Hadlock spoke with Dr. Brian McCall, chancellor of the Texas State University system. Unlike McRaven, McCall comes from both an academic and political background, a PhD and a former state house member.
The good news for the new chancellor is that everyone in the system with whom he will have contact, with few exceptions, will want him or her to succeed. And there are really bright people throughout the UT system who can lend great advice. And the current chancellor has put together an amazing team of educators and professionals who will do everything they can to ensure that chancellor's success. Everything good that happens to the University of Texas system is good for every university in Texas. So I wish them the best.
McCall says university chancellors in Texas must remember that the regents set policy and the direction for their schools and their systems. Chancellors run the day-to-day operations and work closely with the legislature. And joining us now, delving into this issue, is Reeve Hamilton, who covers the higher education topic over at our media partners, the Texas Tribune. Welcome.
Thank you.
So, what does it mean to have someone with a military background like that come and lead the entire system of UT across the state?
Well, we're going to find out. It is a unique choice. You know, all the other system chancellors, there's 6 in the state. 4 of them are former state legislators. 2 of them, including Francisco Figueroa, who's leaving the UT system, are more academic types. And as you mentioned, Brian McCall, who's a former state legislator, also has a PhD. But we haven't had a military guy. Probably the most comparable was when Bob Gates, the former CIA director and then Secretary of Defense, was the president of Texas A&M. But of course, president and chancellor are 2 different jobs. So it's a unique choice, and I think people are really excited about it, but we will just sort of have to see how it plays out and how it translates.
Assuming he does go through the whole process and becomes the chancellor, he's walking into a lot of turmoil right now. You've got the Wallace Hall impeachment kind of going out there. You've got the whole Bill Powers stuff going on as well. You know, that's not got to be a fun thing to think about as you're walking into a new job.
Right, although it's almost ridiculous, right, to ask if the guy that managed to kill Osama bin Laden can handle the pressure of, you know, the UT Board of Regents.
Right.
But it's a different kind of pressure, and that stuff is still going on. You know, it's interesting, though, all these pieces, the presidency and the chancellorship and the Board of Regents, these 3 elements that make up the administration of UT Austin specifically, and sort of the system generally, have been in conflict for years, but now they're all about to change, right? So now we know who the new chancellor is. When the new governor comes in, whoever it is, Abbott or Davis, they will get to choose 3 new board members. And President Bill Powers is going to be leaving in June. So in less than a year, we'll have entirely new leadership, and we'll see how they all mesh together, and maybe the next group will be a little bit more harmonious.
Now, because the governor will pick the regent appointees, it's not going to be Perry, obviously. So what could that look like, let's say, if Abbott is the governor?
It depends on sort of what, you know, what vision he has for higher education, and he has not really articulated that yet. The previous governor, or the current governor, Governor Perry, had decided that he wanted regents that were going to be really hands-on and really push some somewhat ideological initiatives that sort of didn't have a lot of buy-in from the academic world, and that to some extent blew up in his face and became very controversial. Abbott has a more academic background. He has a graduate degree, he got a law degree from Vanderbilt, and so I think people are expecting that he'll be a little bit more friendly to the professoriate. But it still remains to be seen because he has not articulated his vision for higher education.
I've got to ask you about what if Davis is the governor?
Yeah, probably more friendly to academia as well. She's been sort of not too outspoken, but she has sent a couple letters to the UT board, you know, sort of encouraging them to sort of get their act in order, and so I think she wants to see harmony over there, whereas the current governor has allowed conflict to just sort of spin out of control.
Give me an update on the Wallace Hall situation. A very unique thing for Texas is impeachment is not really something we normally have to deal with on a statewide level, at least. You know, do you feel like this is something that's going to actually play out before the next session? Are lawmakers going to have to come back en masse?
Well, I think we're going to get some movement on it soon. So Wallace Hall is this regent that is, you know, maybe going to be impeached. There's a legislative committee that's looking into him now. And I think they'll take some action at their next meeting, which is going to be on August 11th. Now, what that action is sort of still up in the air. They've been drafting articles of impeachment, but they made very clear at their last hearing that they don't have to recommend any articles of impeachment. They could censure him. They could, you know, decide to do nothing. Although at this point, they've said the grounds for impeachment exist, so it would be hard to imagine them letting him completely off the hook. But I think we will see some movement on that very soon, and whether or not that's the end of it or it like initiates next steps, sort of, we'll have to see what happens from there. And I think the McRaven piece, people are expecting him to come in and sort of lay down the law, and there seems to be some momentum towards more unity over at UT, and I don't think they really want to get in the way of that. But of course, Hall, who is a very controversial regent, is not one of the regents that's being replaced next year. So they might want to do something to make sure his hands are tied a little bit, because he's sticking around until, 2017.
You're going to be busy. You've got a lot to cover.
Yes. Well, I'm sure we'll talk about it some more.
All right. Thank you very much, Reeve. We'll have to have you back.
Thank you very much.
All right. And thank you for joining us for State of Texas In Depth. Join us every Sunday morning at 8:30. NBC's Meet the Press is coming up at 9. Have a great day.